Alright guys, that's Comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The roster chaos continues. The big rumour emerging last night is that potentially Falcons Pred is going to be becoming a real thing after getting dropped from OpTic just a couple of days ago. The real question was, where would Pred go next? Cloud9 seems like a realistic possibility, but it seems like instead it's going to be the Vegas Falcons. The Pred maybe joining. The rest of the team though is very much up in the air, and whether Pred even joins is still a matter of massive debate. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. We'll just do all Rostermania today because there's plenty of that. Even in challenges it's going on. HyDra, Lurks and Abe are now going to be teamed with Major Maniac, and Courage is gone from the team. Kind of notable just because of course these have been some of the names floating around. I do even think that, you know, the likes of Mercules, Lurks, Abe, these type of guys could have been in the conversation to get into the league even now, but to be fair, many of the players coming back in are, you know, some recycled names. Maybe that's fair, maybe that's not fair. That will probably change over time, but certainly when we discuss what Falcons are potentially cooking up, that is a talking point to say the least. Confirmation as well yesterday that Lynz is gone from the Gentlemate. Well, he's not gone. He's moving to the bench, and I think that is probably the correct decision. He's going to go down and play in challenges, and look, Lynz is a talented player. It was not working on this team, but I'll be straight up, like, this team has been a complete shambles, and it's not just a shambles in the game, it's a mess outside of the game as well, and I'm sure there's more to come on that in due course. But look, Lynz has proved that he has the talent at times. You know, he's no HyDra, but his arrow on the minimap is questionable at times, and whether, you know, the structure, the way that they wanted to play the game really worked with Lynz, I don't know. I think he needs to be in a bit of a different system. Maybe he can come back in due course as the team potentially improves with other options. Look, Gentlemates would love to have a French player leading the lines. Maybe they're going to bring in Cobra so they still have a French talent. That's not an impossibility either, and therefore maybe they could bring both of these guys back at some point. They'll want to have a French player, but the organisation, like, what would the fans prefer? A team that actually could win something and maybe could qualify to the World Championship and be competitive, or a team with a French player who are terrible, right? Like, I think they'll prefer trying to build a competitive force and then maybe see if a French player could slot in at some point in due course. But, like, these guys have the biggest fan base in COD other than OpTic. Like, they're pretty much on par with OpTic. I mean, in many respects, they could be considered bigger, which is crazy. But, like, the viewership these guys bring is mega, but it's been falling off a bit lately because they've been terrible, which is understandable. So, you know, I think they need to form a more competitive team. Lynz was, you know, a problem, I would say, not the problem precisely, but he was an issue on the team at times, so they're going to part ways with him. Look, if you're sensible and you are Gentlemates, really, you give Kismet the keys, don't you? Like, I think that only makes sense. You kind of let him say, okay, what do you want to do? And he can probably start to make the calls. We think there might be more to it than that. Lynz here confirms he's going to go to challenges to kind of like re-find his confidence and, you know, his enjoyment for the game and all this. Sorry to the fans again. So yeah, we'll see where it goes for Lynz next. Now, it doesn't seem like this is going to be a one-man move. We discussed this on the show last night. Well, okay, is it going to be more than a one-man change? Because surely a one-man move is not going to be enough. And Trey says it could even be a 2 or a 3-man change. JCal says it's a double swap. So likely Kismet is to stay. Lunarz is probably to stay too. Look, Lunarz is a talented player. It's just a strange decision for me to pick him up. Just because it didn't really seem like that kind of slow AR style fit what they really needed. But look, if they bring him in, they've got no Skies anymore, probably fine, but not the experience of Skies. But of course, he's gone to OpTic anyway. Priesthah's the other one. Like, Priesthah's not had a good stint. Maybe he's the one to go as well. Who do they bring in instead? That's up in the air. We don't really have the answers to that question now because Gentlemates are certainly not the #1 choice. If you are a player getting offers right now, you're not going to Gentlemates if you can avoid it. You're going to, you know, other teams, and we'll discuss those other teams over the coming minutes, such as, let's say, the Minnesota Rocker. These were their Lion Man cards during the stage. Actually, Paulex not with the worst Lion Man cards, but like, his performance towards the end of the stage wasn't good, and their numbers this stage weren't good either, and they've now dropped down substantially. Estriel was still excellent. Nero, I mean, his numbers aren't bad exactly, but yeah, his decision making is a little bit interesting at times, and Geo actually really turned up on LAN, as he quite often does. But this team is still a team with potential in there. It's gone the way that I thought it would go. They start the season relatively promising with the talent they have, and then at some point, you know, maybe the lack of leadership or ability to keep up with the way the game is progressing starts to hurt them. And paulex, you know, despite the Lion Man cards, I would say has been their weakest player. And even yesterday, it was noted, it's funny how these things happen before anyone confirms anything, but so paulex was spotted in the Challengers Discord. Here he is saying, Paul, I can't, you know, sign into my FaZe account because of two-step, what do I do about it? So people are like, oh, paulex is playing in Challengers, huh, that's a surprise. Looks like, you know, we're gonna, and this is obviously confirmation that's actually paulex's account. Looks like Rocker have made a change. The man they're gonna bring in, as it stands, it looks like it's gonna be Kenny. Now, this has changed over the last couple of days. I heard Sunday nights that Kenny had an offer from Rocker, and that he had an offer from somebody else as well, or at least it was in the conversation that Kenny could have gone somewhere else. Now, Kenny sparks up the stream. It seems like his vibes are back, and it's great to see. Like, Shotzzy said it explicitly in the podcast the other day that Kenny wants to play. He just doesn't want to play on OpTic right now, which is a bit of an indictment for what the hell was going on with an OpTic team. But and look, obviously Kenny's individual performance was one of the reasons why he got dropped, but there was probably more to it than that. Is this Kenny's game? Maybe not. It doesn't, you know, he hasn't looked that comfortable on this game from day one, but he's still Kenny, and we're not got to forget the player who he has been, and potentially still is. I think he still is. Maybe this isn't his title, I don't know, but there are conversations about where he could potentially go. Now, I definitely wanted to address this because he was initially linked to the Ravens, and my understanding is, we discussed this on the show at depth last night, Trey talked about it, Ace talked about it, this was gonna happen, right? Like, Kenny to the Ravens was very nearly a real thing, and you can debate whether they should or should not have done that, right? Like, it's a big question of the community. Kenny's not played well. Sure, I totally get that conversation about Kenny for Vivid. But the team had decided, I think, that they wanted to do this. And they were making the necessary, you know, they talked to Ken, presumably they talked to Vivid about getting this done. They talked to the team about making it happen as well. And they were fully ready to get Kenny into this team. However, the Ravens, as an organization, decided to step in. Now, I'm not necessarily roasting the Ravens organization for not picking up Kenny, because I think you can debate whether that's actually a good idea or not. I personally think I would do it, but, you know, the decision itself is not what I'm criticizing. What I'm criticizing is the 3 players on the team, it seems, wanted Kenny on the team, but OpTic wanted some sort of buyout. Now, typically, OpTic will let their players go, but it's like, if you can get a bit of money for them, then why wouldn't you? Because Kenny is still, maybe not anymore if he's going to Rocker, but, you know, he was at least under contract. The contract termination clause is, you can't just end his contract immediately, right? There's a termination clause in the contract. You have to pay the player like 2 months salary, whatever. And under that period, they're still contracted to the team. And if you want to get them, you're going to have to buy them out. I think the same was probably true for Skies to OpTic, to be honest, from the Gentlemate, although that may not fully be true. However, Kenny has some sort of buyout. Ace said the buyout was so low that it was almost ludicrous, that like we would laugh at the number. And then Trey says that a few years ago when he was on Ravens, they tried to get Donny Temp off Paris, and the buyout from Paris was something like 10 grand. Like, in the grand scheme of things, when you talk about these salaries, absolutely nothing, and that Ravens refused to pay it. So whatever the number is for Kenny from OpTic, it can't be too dissimilar to that, and Ravens have told basically told the players, like, we ain't paying that, guys. We're keeping the team as it is. Ace even said that the players were trying to figure out ways, like maybe they could take a salary cut to pay for the buyout, right? Like, they were trying to find ways where they could, you know, help Ravens out by paying this money. But Ravens basically just didn't want to listen to them. And now they find themselves in a real predicament. And this is the problem with this organization. Again, I'm not necessarily criticizing the overall outcome. Maybe you can argue that keeping Vivid is the better option. But this just is a terrible look for the org, because who wants to play for an org that's like this? You go for a play for an organization, you want to sign a player, the org says no, you can't do it. Like, who wants to stay on this organization? And this is what I said on stream yesterday, right? Like, they've not lucked into it precisely, but they've managed to find a scenario where Slasher was available, still a great veteran AR, TJ's improved massively, Gwinn they managed to stumble across as an actual genuine top talent, and Vivid's always a serviceable asset too. They've genuinely got a good team this year, and they're going to throw it away like this? That's my perception, because because this team, chemistry-wise, internally, is going to be cooked. There's just no way. If they tried to sign Kenny, they've tried everything to sign Kenny. Vivid knows they've tried everything to sign Kenny. He's still on the team. It's like, this is one of the things that Ravens just, they don't look at the next step. They think, oh, we want to save the money. They don't realize that this has the potential to actually ruin everything they've tried to build this season. So, anyway, that's my perspective on Ravens. You guys know my thoughts on that organization, but let's talk about OpTic Texas, because this is their new team of 4, but their old team of 4, of course, involved Pred. These were their lineman cards, and like it was pretty much Dashy and the boys. Kenny avoided the Burger King, can you believe it? Because his objective work was actually pretty good in hill time, in ticks per round and all this. So actually it was lucky that ended with the Burger King cards, but his numbers obviously were still not especially pretty. There was a lot of talk about Pred, obviously, especially from Karma. I mean, I don't think that Kenny and Pred will want to team together, certainly in-game. I don't know what their relationship is like out of the game. It might be fine, but, you know, I don't know. Who knows, really? But in the game, it certainly wasn't working. Karma was pretty critical, I would say, with his conversations on Zoomer's stream and everything on the streams that he was on a couple of days ago about Pred and everything that was happening over there. But then we start to talk about where Pred's going to go next. Shotzzy said on stream, Cloud9 makes some sense, but there is another organization in the mix as well, because, you know, OpTic Intel yesterday says the Falcons team might be kind of nice. Now, let's just talk quickly about Cloud9, because on paper, Cloud9 makes a bit of sense for AG. He has experience with accuracy, with Sib, you know, boys with Mack, of course, as well on that team. Cloud9, they're good, maybe they're not quite good enough. They could say to Mack or to, you know, Kremp, but I think Kremp and Sib shouldn't really be going anywhere. They could say to Mack or, you know, okay, someone's going to go to the flex. Or they could say to Attach, okay, maybe we're going to part ways, Pred comes in, change the roles around. That's maybe a possibility as well. But I think one of the questions that people want to keep in mind is, okay, money is a factor, right? Can Falcons pay more than Cloud9? I would say absolutely yes. But also, do Cloud9 want Pred? Like, it's a valid question, because either the team or the players may have some concerns, in the same way that Nadeshot made it very clear late last year when Pred was gone from OpTic that if he was ever going to sign Pred to his organization, he would want a lot of explaining done on what happened with OpTic and how he can make absolutely sure that's not going to happen to his organization as well, which is why people that are suggesting, which I think is ludicrous, that Pred for Envoy is a good idea, I think are overlooking many of the key factors here in play, and I don't think it's a good idea anyway in terms of team chemistry, but and dynamics and roles and all that type of stuff and the way that a team would work together. I think Envoy's better than people give him credit for. Whatever, you guys get the story on that. But the point is that it's not like every organization is clamoring to get Pred. There's clearly some baggage there that teams will have to deal with. So that may be part of it. But also, Falcons, they have the bag, and they also are trying, I'm sure, to build a very competitive force. Cloud9 as an organization, you know, have kind of become a bit more of a budget org in general esports over the last few years, where they're, you know, they may be satisfied not to fully win as long as they have some good pieces that they can eventually sell on. The big rumor of yesterday, though, is that Pred to Falcons is looking very likely indeed. The rumor is SMG Pred, AR Arcetes, possibly, and then Proloot or even Fellow, with Xnid likely staying in the team. Now, as far as I understand, as of recording this video, the Pred deal, I wouldn't say it's done, but like, I'm pretty damn sure this is happening right now. I'm pretty sure that this is where Pred's going to go. And it makes a lot of sense in many regards. Pred comes in it. He's a star player, right? Like, it's the type of guy that can now be the face of the Falcons going forwards. The money's there, obviously, right? If Pred goes to them and says, look, pay me what I was getting paid on OpTic, I don't know, then Falcons can probably accommodate that. It's an organization with serious ambitions. You're going to go to the World Cup and get treated like a king, and probably in the off-season, they're going to take even bigger steps to try and get better. Maybe getting to the Falcons now is the perfect time to do it, and obviously they're going to keep trying to make upgrades. Now they're starting to spend some money, it seems, to, you know, rebuild and get even better and start to be incredibly competitive in this league. The other piece that makes me kind of fascinated about this, if it does become true, is what Karma said, that Pred was kind of refusing to run the flex, because, you know, to me, if you're an OpTic, the team's struggling and something had to change, and Pred's getting asked, like, look, do you mind swapping roles with Ken? Like, we've got to try it, right? And Pred's like, no, I ain't doing that. Like, says a couple of things. Potentially it says that Pred had thought about this before. Like, I don't know. I look at this situation, if he does actually join Falcons, and wonder whether this has kind of been part of Pred's plan for a little while. I don't know what you guys think about that. But you guys remember when they beat Falcons, right, in the minor, and Pred was in the post-game interview saying how much respect for those players. And look, I think that was a nice thing to do and to say, but he said the same thing on the podcast afterwards, and it was like, maybe Pred's just keeping up good relationships, right, with the Falcons guys for a potential future of that organization, and I felt that at the time, and now it might be coming true, and it makes a bit of sense, like, and the other piece as well is that if Pred was really, like, refusing to change roles on OpTic, maybe he recognized that the team was chalked, that like he was going to be leaving the team, and that's just how it was going to be. And maybe this is even like a plan that makes a bit of sense. And I think it does make some sense. There is, of course, questions from the fans who'll be like, look, well, Pred's taking the bag over going to a better team, but is there actually a better team that he could join? I genuinely have this question because I don't know if if he didn't go to Falcons, a Cloud9 saying, yo, AG, come on board. Like, is that happening? I'm not sure if that's happening, right? We've not heard rumors to that effect, although maybe on paper it makes some sense. The rest of the team, though, is still the question mark, right? So Xnid stays. I think, it's cool to keep a Saudi guy on board. They'll keep the Saudi project running in the challenger side, bring players up that make sense. Maybe it doesn't last forever, but I think it's a sensible decision for now. Hook is going to OpTic. Apparently he was considered as well, but which makes a lot of sense. But of course, going to OpTic for him makes more sense than to Falcons, I would say. Fellows in the mix too. Good friends, of course, with Clayster, coach of the team. That's something to think about. But currently, Proloot and Arcetes are the ones getting linked to the team. This, of course, may change in due course. Pred may have his mindset on it. Is a team of Pred, Arcetes, Proloot and Xnid much better than they previously were? I think they're better than the previous roster, sure. Are they going to be good enough to make champs? No, not in my opinion. But, it's basically impossible for them starting from 0 points in the league right now, I would say, to actually make it. But they could go to the World Cup. And, should they get better? Yeah. Will they win a series? Probably, yeah. But, will it be good enough to be where they want to be? Probably not. But if Pred can become the key piece and the key foundation of their future as a franchise, then I think that makes a lot of sense for Pred. And it probably makes a lot of sense for Falcons as well. So very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comments below, because this is a big rumor as of today, but as I understand it, this is very, very likely indeed. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.